folks, it's Rick. This is a little voiceover to tell about this video. When you go into a library, you go to different sections of the library. There's the fiction section, entertainment or biographies or whatever you might find in a library. And then in the back, there's usually the reference section, which is not always as fun, but really good for learning stuff. This video definitely belongs in the reference section. We're going to be talking about E chords in the open position, just E major stuff and E dominant stuff. I have a chart at the beginning, and you can freeze the video and take a screenshot, print it, whatever you need to do. I do have a website coming out soon on which I'm going to have all of these charts for easy download. And I have a lot of useful information stuck in my brain that doesn't really get shown to anybody anymore since I'm an IT guy now. So if you're interested in that, spend the next 25 or so minutes checking out this video, or just scroll through and pick out the parts that you like. You don't necessarily have to watch this video and give me a comment or whatever. It's okay. This is just here for folks to learn some of the stuff that I know if they don't know it already. Okay, everybody, enjoy. Hey folks, it's Rick. Welcome to my little Wednesday show. This is called Back Porch Theory in the Basement. So I'm going to talk about the E open position chord shapes. And what you have to remember about all of this stuff is that it's all movable. So it doesn't have to be E, but in this case, So what I'm going to show you right now is the chart that I'm using. This is the chart that I built back in 2008, 2007 maybe. And what this is all different permutations of this chord. And what you can do is, as you watch this video, a good idea would be to open this in a separate monitor screen so that you can pause on this picture. I love this guitar. Alright, so there's E. Alright, and so that's the first one. Now, all of this that I'm showing you, if at all possible, try to do in different fingerings. So in other words, here's E with 2, 3, and 1. By the way, just in case you're confused, we'll move my hand over. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the fingers I'm always talking about. Okay, so 2, 3, and 1. Right, so you want to be able to do it with different fingers too, like 3, 4, and 2. Why do you want to do that? Well, so you can move it. If you want to turn it into a G, or a B flat, or a C sharp, or go up a whole octave and play an E. You always want to be thinking that way. Also, it helps you with visualization, because here you might just see this shape of the fingers. But if you do this and you put your finger capo down behind it, now obviously that's on the nut, so it's not helping much. But if, say we're on F sharp, you have your finger down, now you have a whole 6-string shape in your mind instead of just these 3 notes. You have this. So it just helps with visualization. Visualization is super important in playing guitar. Alright, so the second one that you're going to see is this. And I call this E/G sharp. Anytime that you see a slash notation in a chord, like one letter and then a slash and then something else, like another note, that means that second note after the slash is the bass note. So here's E, here's E/G sharp. It has this note, right? Except you're playing it with your first finger. It has a G sharp on the 6th string as the bass note. You're playing that with your second finger. And it has this B, but you're playing it on the 3rd string, 4th fret. So you have this. And then you can play the E with your 4th finger here. So that's a cool chord, and I use it all the time. All the time. And here are good examples of that. So if you're going to play from E to A, you could do a passing chord. Go E. See how I'm doing that? Going down. From A to E. However you want to play it, you know. Okay, so that's E/G sharp. It's also called E first inversion. What it means by first inversion is you're taking the second note of the chord, making it the bass note. So anytime you make a different note, the bass note, not the root, but the bass, there's a difference. So instead of E rest of the chord, you now have a different note. G sharp, rest of the chord. B, rest of the chord. So anytime that you start the chord from any other note other than what the root is, it's called an inversion. And what I just played was E, E first inversion, and E second inversion. The next one that we see is E6. This is a really useful chord if you're a member of the Beatles. You know, they would always, you know, typical thing. But the thing about E6 is it's always a chord that you can substitute for the regular E. So if the regular E is just too vanilla for you, you do this. Or you can do like shifting between things. You can go E. But really it's just E with an added C sharp. And from the things that I've been talking about with scales, and you haven't seen those, you should go back and look at the other Back to Porch theories. You can count up the scale and find the degree of the scale. So here, this is the first degree of the scale, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. If you start from this E, first degree, second degree, third degree, fourth degree, fifth degree, sixth degree. So here's your C sharp. That sounds really nice. There's lots of ways you could play E6, but for the open position, this is it. And what I'm talking about today are all chords that are related to this open position of E. Okay, next, fourth one over is the E add 9 fingering. Now, if you're an Ozzy Osbourne fan, you might know this one. Song, which I haven't played since I was a teenager. So really what we're doing is we're playing an E and we're adding an F sharp to it, because that's the 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're adding that. There's another way to do an E add 9. We'll have a fingering too in a second. I like to use this chord a lot. It's beautiful. I'll end songs on this, and it works perfectly. So if I'm playing lovely, right? So that's a nice chord to use. This version is a little bit unwieldy because you really have to reach you have to do open 2, 4, 1, and that's the hard stretch. And you also have to really arch the 1 so that you can get the open second string, so you don't end up with free that string and let it ring. All right, so E. All right, and then we learned E first inversion, and then we learned E6, then we learned E add 9. These are all great. Right? Great chords. Now, you want to do a different add 9? You can put the F sharp here on the first string. So that's E and that's F sharp. Right? Right? So all of those chords are E's. There's really, the tonality of them is all the same. It's all home base E. Okay? There's no dissonance. You're not going to another chord. I mean, you might be, but it's not pulling you towards another chord. So that's E9. Still sounds like home. I could end on that. But that feels like it's going somewhere else. And the reason it feels like it's going somewhere else is because it's got a couple of dissonances in it. Right there, the D and the G sharp don't necessarily sound beautiful together. What about the B and the D? They're okay. Right? But if you put the G sharp and the D next to each other here, those are ugly, right? What about the D and the E? Also kind of ugly. So this is E7. This is what I was getting at. E7, and this is the easiest E7. It's just open, 2, open, 1, open, open. And where it was pulling to, I was talking about those dissonances here and here. It wants to go here. It wants to go to A or A minor. So E7 or okay. So to make a 7th chord, all you do is you take the original 3 notes, in this case E, G sharp, and B, and you add a 7th to it. Okay, so the 7th is D. Now here's how that works. If you care to stop and listen to this a second, and obviously if you've been listening this long, you don't mind listening to me ramble. So typically in a major key, which we're in, key of E, the 7th degree of that scale is a major 7. In other words, it's a half step away from going back to the root. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, D sharp, 8. Okay. Now, if you make that D sharp a D, well, you're essentially stepping outside of that key, aren't you? And what key are you stepping into? Well, you're stepping into A in this case. Because A has 1, 2, 3, there's 1 sharp. 4, it's D natural. So what you're really doing is you're introducing a note from another key into the chord, and that's pulling your ear towards that other key. I'll say that again. Since we're playing E, we're adding a D, and D belongs to the A scale and not to the E scale. So it's making us feel like we're in A, and that's it. And also the dissonance between the D and the G sharp and the D and the E makes us feel like we need to go somewhere else. We need to resolve, we need to resolve, we need to resolve. Here comes E7 fingering 2. Just take your E chord and put your 4th finger down. Right? Remember I said early in the video that you want to be able to play any of these chords with the other fingers. So don't forget that you can take this same formula here and go into G and play G7 and play G7 this way. This one, you're putting the D here on the 2nd string. That's the difference. Here the D is the open 4th string, and here the D is on the 2nd string. Now can you double the D? Sure. You can have both the open 4th string and the 2nd string. And you often do that if you play it up in different positions. The next one we're going to do is E9. E9 is different from E add 9. Here's the difference. An E add 9 will not have the 7th in it, but an E9 will have the 7th in it. When you play this E7 and it has that D note in it that doesn't belong to the E scale, that chord voicing or sound is called dominant. So that's an E dominant chord, some people will call it. A 9 chord is always a dominant chord. I'll play them here. That's a dominant chord. It's pulling me to here. Right? So E9 in the first position looks like this. Here, oh, that's a dominant chord and it wants to go to A. If you didn't have this 7th in it, if we just played it like this, it's E add 9 because it's not dominant. That's important. So if you can remember that, try to remember that. If you can't remember it, you'll remember it another time and it's okay. Now, E major 7, let's go back to the first line. I talked about the first line, like everything there is really an E chord. None of it is dominant. None of it wants to go to another key. Everything is still in the E scale. Oh, I lost my thing. Okay, there it is. Everything is there. Now, E major 7 is the same. Everything is still in the E scale. So if you play this, it's still an E. It just has that colorful. And that's really nice. Watch what I can do. I can go E, E major 7, E7, and then to A. Here's a famous song that does that. I'm not playing exactly right because actually Jimmy Page tunes totally different to play this, but this is how I learned it by ear when I was in high school. So that goes G, G major 7, G7, just like. Okay, here comes E major 7 fingering 2, the first chord on the 3rd line, E. So we can reach with our 4th finger if we can and play. I can barely do it because I had surgery on my left hand and my 4th finger doesn't stretch like it used to. Alright, I'm sorry about that one. When I made this chart I could do it. But it's the same thing, it's an E, but it's got a major 7 on it. That's something I need to practice so I can get better at that. That's E major 7, that's my fingering 2. By the way, these fingering 1, fingering 2, fingering 3, they're not official. Those are just what I'm calling them. This is an easy E major 7. And all you have to do is go E, 1, 1, like a power chord. But then you're going to put these 3 fingers down here. And that's great. By the way, you can't do that in any other key, really. Unless you've got, like, monster fingers. Some people do, I suppose. Wait, let me see if I can. Oh, I can do it better than I did the last one. Isn't that pretty? Very nice. Alright, so those are the E major 7s. Major 7s are great. If you're playing jazz and there's an E chord written, it's either an E major 6 or an E major 7. Never in jazz will you play this. You'll always probably play something like this. Okay. So the next one, the 3rd one on that line is the E sus4, which I love. E sus4 is like a funny conglomeration of E and A. I don't know. So E sus4 has got your regular E chord, and you just put your 4th finger on the A note, 2nd fret of the 3rd string. So E sus4 is great. See what I did there? I went sus4 and E. Add 9. Very cool. Now the next one is taking the E sus4 and making it dominant by adding the D. So making it a 7th chord. E sus4 with a 7th in it. And that's beautiful. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like Molly Hatchet. Now the last one on the page is really one of my favorites, and it's E11. This is gorgeous. So E11 is a combination of that suspended sound from the E sus4 or the 7th sound from E7. And if you put them together, you get E11. And this chord's neat. It's got the root, it's got the 5th, it's got the root again. It has the 4th or the 11th, same note. See if we count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right? So there it is. And 1, 2, 3, 4. They're both A's. Alright, so. And it has the 7th and the 9. So it is a dominant chord, right? So here's where you can use stuff like that. Say I was playing my favorite song on earth, The Long and Winding Road. The long and winding road. That's an 11 chord. That leads to your. That's an 11 chord. That leads to your door. See, I used it going from E to A. Will never E/G sharp disappear. I've seen that road before. Okay, so you can use it as a dominant. You can use it as all kinds of stuff. It's a great chord. But it feels like you're going to A. It also could feel like you're going back to E. So if you're going, just like this sus4 did. But it's a really great chord. It's also, if you ever see D/E, remember what I said before, is that when you see a slash notation, the first letter is the chord and the second letter is the bass note. So D/E is like a D chord with an E bass note. Isn't that nice? It's beautiful. It's a great chord. All right, so I'm going to loop a little bit and play through these again. That is it for today's episode. It's kind of lengthy, but it was important. I'll show the chart one more time at the end. You can take a screenshot of it and print it. I promise I'm going to get that website up. It's going to be beautiful. And I hope you folks have a good week. Peace to you, and be nice to your neighbors and practice your E chords, right? All right, later on.